and my poo was this big. I'm Lauren Vandermars with Refresh Health, and today we're talking about how big your poo needs to be. And the reason that you got to see my foot is because your bowel motions every day should be about 1.5 feet long every single day. Now, for some people, a normal bowel motion could be all of that in one go, or it could be all of that in about 2 to 3 goes. Anything more than that is that's not considered healthy, normal. Well, it might be normal these days because most of us aren't pooing very well in the first place, but it's not a healthy normal. Now, for some of you, you're going to think that's pretty obvious information, but I'm going to tell you it's not. And I'm going to give you a really stupid example of when I learnt how people don't really know how much you should poo. So before I got into this, and before I knew as much as I know about poo now, I suffered from constipation, as I've talked about before. But in the beginning, when I had constipation, it was pooing or no pooing, not in between those two things. And there came a point where I was pooing, but it wasn't enough. But I was unsure how much I should be pooing because my diet had changed. And if you've read my story or heard me talk about it before, when I was constipated, I experienced constipation for 20 years, but for 10 of those years, I was a binge eater. So after binge eating, when I wasn't binge eating, I wasn't sure if I was pooing enough because I knew how much a bowel motion was for me when I was binge eating. So you see what I'm saying? But I felt so sick. I did have fecal impaction. I had trouble keeping food down. I had a lot of nausea. And I went to the doctor, and I even told the doctor, I don't think I'm pooing enough. I think I'm constipated, but I'm not really sure how much I should poo. Guess what? She didn't know how much you should poo daily either. So even with all this information I gave her and feeling around my tummy, she even wanted to digitally check me. Stupid. And she still didn't know I was constipated. I knew I was constipated. They went and I had an x-ray and that showed the fecal impaction. And then it was like, oh, duh. So it's not uncommon for people to not know how much you should poo. So 1.5 feet long is how much your bowel motion should be every single day. Between 1 and 3 bowel motions, 1.5 feet of poo every day. If you're pooing more than that, it's incomplete. And if you're pooing less than that, you're constipated. Even if you're pooing half of 1.5 feet every day, you're still constipated. So I know being labeled constipated, the word constipated, it's not really a fun word to be thrown around. It's taken me a long time to get comfortable saying, yeah, I'm constipated. How are you today? It's not something that we're comfortable with, but it's also, I think people aren't told they're constipated often enough when actually they are. It's sort of like a poo, no poo thing, but there is a place in between that's still, some people might think it's a gray area, but actually it's constipated. There is no gray area in between. You're either going every day properly or you're not, then you're constipated. What can you do about constipation? The best thing that I have found for constipation is of course colon hydrotherapy. That's why I do this, guys. I have been through all the stupidity of laxatives that didn't even work in the first place. Another thing to keep in mind with laxatives, we all know that they make your bowel lazy, which is not good for long term. But if you're taking oral laxatives, that's chemicals going through your whole digestive system before it even gets to your large intestine. So food for thought. Colon hydrotherapy, if you don't have anyone around you doing colonics, or you really can't afford it, get yourself an enema bag, $50. You can keep using it over and over again. But of course, an enema bag is usually about 2 liters of water. You're looking at working through 20 to 30 liters of water on a colon hydrotherapy device. So I can, this is more effective than enemas, but enemas are really good. If you are doing an enema, warm filtered water, body temperature, don't need to go fancy. Water is all you need. If you find that you're having a lot of trouble with constipation, aside from colon hydrotherapy, you need to look at your diet. Squatty potties are amazing. I highly recommend them. I have them listed on my website with the products. There's some great videos on there. Some of them, or one of them in particular, is very amusing if you don't mind a bit of toilet humor. However, it's incredibly accurate and spot on. It's a very thorough, good video to watch. Diet needs to be looked at, and one thing that I think we forget about is your emotions and things like that. So for me, constipation started after a trauma. Most people that walk in this door, there's been some sort of trauma, negative belief pattern, some sort of behavior, something that's happened before constipation has started. And so even though you might still need a colonic and you might need to look at changing your diet, guys, there's never a bad time to improve your diet, ever. So you're not going to regret improving your diet, just do it. But sometimes you do need to stop and go back and look at what happened in my life before the constipation. Is there something that I need to look at, I need to deal with? There's some great energy workers and spiritual healers and coaches. If you're in this area, I can certainly point out a few. So definitely take that into consideration as well. So you don't need to get silly every day when you do a poo. You don't need to get out a tape measure or stick your foot up and try and work out if your poo's about that big. But have a look before you wipe and throw toilet paper in there and you can't see. Check what's coming out of your body. It's good to know. Your poo tells you a lot about your health of your body. So just check, okay? But you should also feel like, I'm finished pooing. Like you do a poo and you're like, I'm good, I'm done. It's done. You shouldn't feel like, I think there's a bit more coming, I'm not really sure. That would, to me, is an indication that you need a colonic and need to have a look at that. But just look, keep an eye on it. So now you know what's constipated and what's not constipated, and you can save yourself from seeing doctors who also don't know what constipated is and sticking their finger up your butt and just wasting everybody's time. I'm Lauren Vandermast with Refresh Health, and you know what? Cheers to a 1.5 foot long poo.